So watch me do an updated step-by-step makeup tutorials for beginners. If this is what you'd like to see, keep on watching. So first thing, I'm going to be cleaning up the face in order to remove dirt and oil on the face. Then I went ahead to hydrate her skin with my Kiss Beauty Spray. After hydrating it, I'm going to let it absorb into the skin before I go ahead to moisturize. I'm using my Cetaphil moisturizer to moisturize her face. Apply it generously all over the face. You can use any moisturizer of your choice. So when doing your skin prep, it's important you allow every product you apply into the skin dry up before moving on to the next product. So for primer, I'm going to be using this Kiss Beauty primer on her face. What does primer do? Primer helps the makeup to last and it helps to hold the makeup. So it's important to always prime after you moisturize. So whenever I'm priming the face, I always avoid the areas underneath the eyes because I really do not want that area to be tight. I only moisturize. After priming, I'm going to let it dry before I move on to foundation. I'm going to be using this Loreal foundation. I'm going to be leaving the shade in my description box. So I used a flat brush to apply it all over the face before I went ahead using my beauty sponge to blend in the foundation into the skin. So if you look very well, you notice that I did not apply so much foundation on the areas underneath the eyes because I know I'll be applying concealer, so I wouldn't want that place to be too thick. So after applying the foundation, I'm going to be locking it up with this setting spray from Kiss Beauty. This will help the foundation not to move or go anywhere. After that, I let it dry into the skin before moving on to cream contour. For cream contour, I'm going to be using this Newborn Beauty concealer in the shade 048 to contour her face. So whenever you want to contour the face, it's important to use a shade that is 2 to 3 shades darker than the skin to contour the face, depending on how the shade turns out. So after blending, moving on to cream blush, I'm going to be using this orange shade for my Blossom lip palette and apply it above her cheekbone and a little bit on the tip of her nose. Then I went ahead to blend it towards the direction I applied the cream blush. So if you want to blend your cream blush, you don't use that same part of beauty sponge used in applying the foundation. You need to turn it to the other side so that your beauty sponge doesn't get ruined, because you still need to go back blending the foundation. That's if you wish to do so. So after that, I'm going to be highlighting the face with this Avour concealer in the shade A20. So after that, I'm going to be using my beauty sponge to blend the concealer on the highlighted area. So I use that part of beauty sponge, that particular part I used in applying the foundation to blend in the concealer, because if I use that part I used to apply the cream blush, it would ruin the concealer with a different shade. So that's why I used the side of the beauty sponge I used in applying the foundation to blend the concealer. So if you have any question for me, let me know in the comment section. If there's something you don't understand as well, let me also know in the comment section. We are all here to learn, right? So after blending, I'm going to be contouring the nose with the same shade I used to contour the face. So I'm just using my flat brush to apply it before blending it to avoid harsh lines. So after this, you can go ahead to set the concealer, but I always like the inner corner of the face to be a little highlighted. So I went ahead to add a lighter concealer. This is Msmetic concealer in the shade 145 because I really want the inner corner of the face to be a little highlighted than the outer corner. After that, I used my beauty sponge to blend. So guys, can you see the difference? Can you see what it looks like with a lighter concealer? So after that, I'm going to be setting with my Merak setting powder in the shade Cinnamon. But before setting, I went back to blend the areas underneath the eyes to avoid creasing. So don't just go ahead to set, make sure you blend before you set. So I'm going to be using my beauty sponge to set. I'm going to be taking it a little and I'll also blow it out so that it won't be too much. So you can also dust it off with your palm so that it doesn't get too cakey when you set the concealer. So when you're setting, take it one step at a time. Make sure you set properly. Do not be in a haste to set. Trust me, if you set the concealer properly, you see how smooth like it would look. But if you don't set it well, it will look cakey and it will look ugly. Yes, I said so. So after setting the concealer, I'm going to be setting the rest of her face with this Becharm powder palette. I'm just going to take her exact shade to set the rest of her face. So if you want to set the rest of the face, make sure you use this exact shade of the person's skin color to set. Do not use a shade lighter or darker. Make sure it's her exact shade. So for low light contouring, which is the cream contour, I'm going to be mixing these two shades from the same powder palette to set the areas I applied the cream contour. Next, I'm going to be contouring the nose with the same shade I used to contour the face to enhance the nose. So for powder blush, I'm going to be using this orange shade from my Blossom eyeshadow palette and apply it above her cheekbones and a little bit on the tip of her nose. So if you apply your cream blush, you also need to top it up with a powdery blush so that everything will blend together and pop. After which I used my powder brush to blend everything together. So after blending, I'm going to be using this light shade from the same powder palette and apply it on the areas I highlighted. So after that, I went back with the same contour brush I used to contour the face. I went back using it to blend everything so that everything will be well blended. After that, I'm going to be setting the face. This would help to reduce the brightness on the face and reduce the powder effect on her face. Then after this, I'm going to let it dry into the skin, like dry properly before I bake. So I'm going to be baking the face with the same setting powder I used to set the face to bake the face. Then I do my reverse contouring and also apply some setting powder on the areas underneath the eyes to avoid fallouts from the eyes. So you can also skip this part. That's if you're going to be careful with your eyeshadow application. So next, I'm going to be using my spoolie brush to brush her brows first. Then I went ahead using my brow time to lay the brows nicely. So next is to outline her brows. I'm going to be using my Carrot gel liner, the brown shade, and my angled brush to draw her brows following the shape of her brows. So next is to highlight her brows with the same concealer I used to highlight the face. So after highlighting, you don't need to leave it like this. You need to blend the concealer. If you don't blend it, it will look tacky. So make sure you blend after applying the concealer. So next, I'm going to be highlighting the top of her brows with the same foundation I used on her face to highlight the top of the brows. So it's best to use the same foundation color. Don't use the same concealer you used to highlight underneath her brows because it will look very light on the top. So unless you really know how to blend it well, but it's best to use foundation shade to highlight the top of the brows. So next, I'm going to be using this shade from my powder palette to set the concealer. Trust me, you don't just apply the concealer and leave it. You need to set it. If you don't set it, it would look oily. So it's always important to set the concealer after you apply it. So I'm going to be using the same powder shade I used to set the rest of the face to set the top of her brows. So moving on to the eyes, first of all you need to prime your lid. I'm going to be using this Viange eyeshadow base to prime her lid. You can also make use of concealer to prime the lid because the primer helps the eyeshadow to stay and pop. So after applying the primer, the next thing you want to do is to blend it so that if you apply the eyeshadow it would look very smooth and well blended. So first thing, I'm going to be using this shade from my powder palette as her transition color. So I started from the outer corner of her lid, then blending it towards the inner corner of her lid. So next, I'm going to be using my Kylie eyeshadow palette. I'm just going to take this shade here and apply it on the outer corner, then blend it towards the inner corner. So next I'm going to be applying this darker brown on the outer corner, then softly blend it towards the inner corner. So I went back with this same shade here to blend it out. So after that, I'm going to be using this shade here from the same eyeshadow palette. I'm just going to apply it on the outer corner of her lid. So after that, I went back to blend. After blending, I went ahead to apply some setting powder on the outer corner of her lid to define the lid. So next, I'm going to be using my Beach Wave eyeshadow palette. I'm just going to apply this on the inner corner of her lid. After applying it, I blended. So next, I'm going to be applying this MK pigment by the side of the inner corner of her lid. After which I use this darker shade here to darken the crease. So next, I'm going to be using this dark shade to smoke out the areas underneath her lower lashes. Next, I'm going to be lining her upper and lower lash line with my Carrot gel liner. So next, I'm going to be prepping her natural lashes and also give it volume. After that, I went ahead to wear her these lashes from Msmetic. So moving on to the lip, I'm going to be using this brown shade from my Blossom lip palette to outline her lip. After outlining, next thing I did was to blend. Then next I'm going to be using these shades from the same powder palette and apply it on the inner corner of her lip to brighten up the lip. So I went back lining the lip again before glossing it. After that, I used my contour brush to blend. So this is me doing some finishing touches. If there's any place you need to touch on the face, you go back and touch it. So I went back applying more blush on her cheekbone. So next I'm going to be applying mascara on her lower lashes. For highlight, I'm going to be using my Yanga Beauty highlighter and apply it on the areas I want the face to glow. So next I'm going to be applying this pigment on her tear dots. Then I went ahead to dust off the fallout from the eyes. So I went back using that brow tone to lay the brows nicely again. So next I'm going to be setting the face with my Keys Beauty Spray. After setting it, I'm going to let it dry properly into the skin. After that, I'm going to be sealing it up with my So Pro Seal It Spray. This helps the makeup to last longer. So this is supposed to come before the Seal It Spray. I didn't remember it. So this is Msmetic Cheek Glaze. This is what makes the face glow. So I'm just gonna apply it on the areas I want the face to glow. So see what the cheek glaze does to the face. Can you see how the face is already glowing? And this is the finished look, guys. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you so much guys for watching. I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.